All right. So why don't we call the meeting to order, and Patrick can join us when he shows up. So here is our September meeting. I want to call it to order. And as you all know, it's a Zoom meeting, so everything was done by roll call. And I think that's even the initial thing that we're all present will be done by roll call. I believe that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we do a roll call to make sure our members are here? Leo Martin here. Maria Rose.
Here.
Charlie Bering.
I'm here.
Jamie O'Connell.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum with four members, and when Patrick joins, he'll be able to pipe in. So I think the first item we have is Laurel. On the last meeting, we did our voice roll call votes, but we need to give her a permission to use those roll call votes as a signatory. Is that correct, Laurel?
Correct. Basically, the Middlesex South Registry. Sorry, what?
So you'll be a power of attorney almost for us.
So the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds let me know that they prefer to have my wet signature or original signature on the forms, in addition to my having already been empowered to place your all electronic signatures on the forms. So yeah, if you could just sort of do a confirmatory vote to enable me to put my physical signature on authorizing documents.
Okay, so we need a motion to allow Laurel to sign those documents, and so.
So I'll make a motion that the motion is that we allow Laurel Schwab to act as our signatory agent as a collective body on documents that require submission to the Registry of Deeds.
Second.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Maria?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Charlie?
Aye.
And Leo is an aye. So knock yourself out, Laura. You can sign our names now. All right. The next item is a continuation of 650 Pleasant Street. We had a hearing last month. We made some comments, and I think they've done this last submittal. The one we had this month was so much more improved than the one we got last month. So kudos to you guys. You did a much better job. But so why don't you give you a presentation? I don't know who's going to talk. You got a whole bunch of people here today.
Yeah, I'll start. My name is Laurel H. I'm from VHB, and we were the part of the team that submitted the supplemental information to you. I'm going to try to share my screen and get a plan set up here. So let me try to do that now. Actually, let's see here. I might have to close something first. Sorry, guys. Okay, and just let me know when you can see that.
Got it.
Great, okay. I know it can be small, so I'll try to zoom in and out here. 650 Pleasant Street. So we, as part of that supplemental package that we submitted, I'll just run through really quickly some of the elements of that package. There was a revised stormwater memo. There was a description of the wetland delineation, sort of the Bank of the Charles there. There was a revised NOI form, and then a supplementary memo that described the background information about the parcel, or the property, the description of the wetland resources. On this site, we have riverfront area, bordering land subject to flooding, and the 150-foot buffer zone to the bank. And then we provided sort of a work description of what's currently going on and what's proposed for this redevelopment. And in the areas of riverfront, which a little bit faded here, but I'll try to zoom in on that area. A lot of the building and sort of the outer parking areas, the front parking areas, those are outside of resource areas, but the rear of the parcel is within riverfront area. Here's the riverfront area line right here. And here's the 150-foot buffer zone here. So the work that's being done on the parking lot, which is all previously disturbed riverfront, and there is no intention of encroaching closer to the river than is already previously degraded. But there is some work that's being performed back there, and mostly beneficial improvement work. There is an area at the, let me think here, this would be the west side, where we're removing pavement. That's hatched in this area. Another area on the east side where we are proposing revegetating a gravel area. Those are the primary sort of earth activities in the in resource areas. There's also some upgrades to the stormwater system that are proposed. And actually, I'm going to go down to the next one so we can just highlight this particular catch basin, which is receiving a water quality unit as part of stormwater improvements. One thing that we noted, or actually Laurel noted, is that there's no proposed phosphorus treatment on the site. And I shouldn't say there's no proposed, the water quality unit does uptake phosphorus. However, the unit is only servicing this portion of the parking lot, really. And so we have this portion back here that all drains to the catch basin at the rear on the south side of the parking lot, and that didn't receive any treatment. So she brought up the idea of another mechanism for phosphorus removal on the site. And we took a really close look at this. We're limited out here. There's the site is a capped landfill, so the obvious way to remove phosphorus is to infiltrate, and we can't do that on this site. We have a limited space as well, as far as where we could add features. And one thing that we thought would be really beneficial, and hope that the commission agrees, is to, specifically to this catch basin, which is receiving all this runoff, is to add a tree box filter over in this corner, that the runoff would flow into this area here, through the tree box filter, and then into the catch basin, into the existing stormwater management system, and drain to this pipe outlet right here. Tonight, looking for feedback on that, hoping that meets everyone's goals of some phosphorus removal on the site, a better phosphorus removal on the site, and hoping that the commission might be open to conditioning the project to include that, and then we can add that to the proposed work.
Laurel, I missed it. Where does that tree filter drain to? I'm sorry, it drains from, it goes from the tree filter to the catch basin?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And then to the oil water separator?
Correct. We would not touch that oil water separator. Yeah.
You're gonna abandon it?
We would not. It would be left in place. Yeah.
So the pipe is gonna go from the catch basin to where?
Into the oil water separator, and then out that final pipe. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that oil water separator is just a box? Has it been cleaned, or has it been? I'll go ahead. You continue. I'll ask later.
No, it's a good question. On this meeting tonight, we have a few folks. We have Craig Finn, who is the civil designer. He can speak to some stormwater questions. And then we also have DC Beam, they're the contractor on site. So ask away. We're prepared to hopefully answer all your questions tonight.
No, yeah, okay, good. So go ahead. If that's if that you're not finished, I don't think, are you? Or are you?
Yeah, that sums up. I think the highlights that we were hoping to. I think one more thing I'll just mention, which I feel like is a improvement that's worth highlighting, is in the riverfront area. Let me just go back to this one. We are proposing to revegetate these areas, add conservation seed mix, some plantings to provide an improvement there. Hopefully plantings that will be beneficial to wildlife habitat. So that's just something to mention as well. So questions, feel free.
I'm going to ask one question before I'm going to turn it over to my rest of the committee before you come back to me. But on the front of the, where's the drainage go from the front of the lot? Does it go into the line, the 40-inch line that you're burying?
Yeah, Craig, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. This is Craig Finn from VHB. So where Laura's hand is right now, or the east side of the site, drains to today what was an existing catch basin that is being converted to a water quality unit.
Okay. Yeah.
So that portion of the site drains to that existing structure, and then the small parking lot area on the western front portion of the site drains as it always did today. I believe there's a catch basin on the large drain pipe that runs along that property line and out to the back.
Is there any treatment on that line at all? Prior to dumping into that?
I don't. I'm not. Yeah, honestly, I think it's just a deep sun-putted catch basin. If I
It just
recall
dumped
right.
right into the 40-inch Watertown line, right? Not a 40-inch?
It might be bigger than that. I'm trying to
68.
remember off the. I'm pulling. Actually, I'm sorry. That area, it works its way out to the street. I thought there was a catch basin in the corner, but
That's why I couldn't
doesn't.
tell. I couldn't see anything. I see a rain meter that comes off and goes into there, but I couldn't find any catch basins.
Right. Yes, I'm sorry.
I was just curious where it went.
No, that works its way out to Pleasant Street.
Okay. All right. With regard to comments, Jamie, you want to start off?
Sure. So I second what Leo said. This looks so much better than last week, or last meeting. So thank you for all of your work. I think there's still a few outstanding items that we need to figure out before we can move to permit the project. So I think the first thing that I'm interested to know is, in your notice of intent, you categorize the project area as a previously developed area and are asking us to evaluate it based on the 10.58 part 5 criteria. But I didn't see anything that you submitted showing that it was constructed before August 7th, 1996. So can you talk to speak to what information you have to date this as a previously developed area?
Yeah, so we could use, if you need sort of backup, we could use some aerial imagery. I mean, this is a very old site, a very old building. It's been in this condition for, actually, I was looking on this plan, it says 1962. So it's been in this condition for quite a few decades. Would it be helpful to provide aerials or some other sort of,
well, we did, like, I've checked the aerials, and the aerial has the parking lot as forest in the 90s, which I think was like either 94 or 95. for this site, and then it's a parking lot by 2001. And so I asked our conservation agent to see if she could find a permit for it, and it looks like it was permitted in 97. So I think, I think the end result is the same.
Parking lot itself was.
Yeah, the parking lot itself. So I think ultimately the end result will be the same for this project, but just the notice of intent, I think, which we need to reflect that we're evaluating the project, I think, under the general performance standard instead of the previously developed, unless you have information that, shows that it was built earlier.
Mm. So no, I don't have anything to add to what you said. If you were to evaluate this under the general performance standard, I think you could still prove compliance. There's no encroachment beyond, there's nothing in the inner riparian. There's no encroachment closer to the river. There's no, trying to go through it in my head, there's no disturbance that's not, it's hard to evaluate under the general because it's already
it's not
previously
really
disturbed. But yeah, I guess I would just say that there's no loss of wildlife habitat, significant wildlife habitat. I guess even if you could prove compliance either way. But no, I don't know about that past permit in 97, and what do you think that any of that work was done out of compliance, or?
Well, I was trying to figure it out last meeting, just so we know
Yeah.
which part of the regulation we're evaluating.
Mm-hmm.
And so based on what Laurel found, I think my assumption is that it was built in 97, but it's possible it was built sometime between the 90s aerial photograph and the 2001 photograph, and so I didn't know, when we saw that it was listed that way, if you had some site history that informed that distinction. I mean, again, I think because the whole area is a parking lot and you're not encroaching further, I think ultimately what we just want is that it meets the stormwater standards to the extent practicable. But I think for us making, when we're issuing the permit, we need to know which part we're supposed to be evaluating. So perhaps you could provide just the summary for the general performance standard, just kind of for the record, so that we can show that it's not a problem under either one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we could prove compliance either way. So yes, so we can do that if that would be helpful.
Excuse me, could I interject for a second?
Yeah.
Jamie, isn't it 1997 that the rule is, not 1996? I'm trying to find it myself.
It's not what there may be different dates for different parts of components of the Wetlands Protection Act, but the date listed in that part 5 is 96.
96, yeah.
Okay, 10.585 something, right?
Yeah, just the first part of 10.585.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't want DEP to review it and send it back because we didn't establish a date. So that's the only thing I'm trying to avoid with this.
So my thoughts are the building itself was definitely constructed long before that. But
Correct.
I think it would be worthwhile to just make sure that that back parking lot was permitted. And I feel like instead of having
It was.
Yeah, Laurel looked it up for us, and it does have a permit, but the permit was just issued in 97. So unless there was activity that went on before that, it's probably not previously developed.
So that would be, to me, still a gray area because all the rest of the site proper had already existed. So you're talking about
But that's the section that's the section in our jurisdiction. It was developed after that. They enlarged the parking lot in 1997.
Okay. I mean, it is,
I think that's what it was.
we might need to get some clarification from like DEP or somebody, like how would you handle a site that exists like this, you know, for decades, but one small portion of it was done more
I think
recently.
I think it's a paper trail. I think Jamie wants the paper trail, so it's in our records that we got it.
Yeah.
Am I
And I
correct in
think for
saying that,
some
Jamie?
projects, that's like really important to know because you're trying to figure out what parts are previously developed and what parts are not. I think for this, because the outcomes should be the same no matter which one it is, I think we just want the record to reflect that we evaluated against the right one, and that's my thinking at least.
So I think that but maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I think it makes a big difference if you're trying to establish that it doesn't qualify for redevelopment. That's what I'm hearing.
Well,
So if it doesn't qualify for redevelopment, they're not going to meet standards 2, 3.
no, that redevelopment under the stormwater, as it applies to the stormwater standards, is different, and it definitely is, we think, a redevelopment in that regard. But in terms of figuring out what performance standards for the river, for the resource area, it needs to meet, we need to know whether we're evaluating it against Part 5 or Part 4, I think, if I understand it correctly.
Okay, so you're not saying they might need to jump through more hoops for the stormwater standards.
I think, yeah, Leo and I had a long email chain about this. What our interpretation is in the stormwater standards, or in the Wetlands Protection Act regulations, where it talks about writing an order of condition. Pull up my notes. I think it's like 10.05B. Does that sound right, Leo? That it talks about that this project needs to meet both the performance standard for that resource area as well as the stormwater standards. So I think that kind of whichever, whether it's Part 4 or Part 5, and 10.58, I think all that's governing is like what performance standards does it need to meet for the resource area, but not what it has to do with respect to the stormwater standards, is what my takeaway was.
Okay.
But I definitely am interested to hear other people's thoughts and interpretation of everything.
I looked through the regs myself right before the meeting though, and I was trying to really make sure that they did as much as they could because I was a little disappointed in the lack of infiltration. But then the first thing I did was look up to see whether there were past historic spills or oil and hazardous material releases at the site, and there are DEP site tracking numbers. Even while they were working, they must have dug into stuff and have had 2 LSPs since these owners have been working on the project. So that kind of mitigates or lessens the ability, as a presenter had mentioned, to infiltrate. So at first I was just disappointed that being so close to the river, they couldn't do more. But given that, I thought they did the best they could. And it seemed like when I went through the redevelopment clause, it seemed to meet it to me, but that is an interesting piece. I didn't look at old aerials to know if that back parking lot was constructed right around 97. I guess we should definitely figure out if that makes a difference with how if it makes no difference in how it comes out, I don't know if it's worth delaying things. But if it does make a difference in how we apply performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act, or how we apply the 10 stormwater standards, because they will have a very hard time meeting recharge here for sure. So I mean, those are my thoughts. I'm happier with it than it was presented. It's much clearer now where what is being impacted. It's nice that there is a little bit of pavement coming out. That's helpful. It sounds like there's an addition to this tree filter, which is a new addition prior to our submittal, because I don't see it on our plans. Is that correct?
Correct. They would, you know, as she said, it would be conditional, and then they would update the plans to reflect that, assuming that, you know, that's something everyone agrees is a good way to go.
But I'm happy that, you know, if you guys, Leo and Jamie, if you guys have been looking at this a while with the regs, because we definitely should be following the right performance standards that we should, you know, uphold them to. So if you feel that,
Go ahead, Marie, I'm sorry.
no, if you feel like that we need to do something else, I'm just not clear on what that something else is, then let's just make sure it's very clear what we're asking.
I think that the Wetlands Protection Act is asking us to make sure that proposed projects meet the performance standards for each specific resource, as well as meet the stormwater standards where the stormwater standards apply. So knowing whether this site was built before or after August 7th, 1996, I think only really impacts us with respect to the performance standards for a resource versus the stormwater standards. So if I am understanding it correctly, that's where it's important. But I think under either situation, they still have to meet the, you know, the stormwater standards to the extent practicable.
Leo?
Charlie, go ahead. Charlie?
You know, if I understood that there's a critical date for some purposes, but it may not really make much difference. Now, my feeling about that is that it really should be up to the applicant to give us the best information on when that work was done. If we can't figure it out from what we've got, then we don't have enough information. On the other hand, if there is no more information than what we've got, maybe we simply take the best that we can, and if we determine that it doesn't make any difference, then that's what our decision has to be. And either way, they're subject to the performance standards in the stormwater regs, if I understand that correctly. But I gather, Leah, from what you said, that it's not clear when the work was done. Is that correct, or?
So as Jamie said, she reached out and asked me to look through our physical files in the conservation office, and I found an NOI that was filed and various paperwork related to that, all from 1997. I don't have the dates in front of me because I don't have the file with me right now at home, but you know, that's what she had asked me was, you know, what are the records that we have related to that parking lot being constructed, and that's the information that the conservation office has, is that it took place in 1997.
And I think that's a pretty reasonable guess. Like, I haven't read through the notice of intent, but unless it was for, you know, an after the fact thing, or if it was just maintenance, it's probably for the actual construction of it.
Yeah, and from my recollection, there were, you know, like copies of letters saying like, hello, like the paving is complete now. You know, there's some real time correspondence about the activity. It did not present itself as like, oh yeah, we're doing this after the fact.
Okay, so I think we can assume then that it was constructed in 1997, so it doesn't fall under the River Protection Act performance standards for previously developed riverfront area. which I think means then we're awkwardly shoehorning it into the general performance standard of 10.584, which, like Lori said, it should meet compliance because it's not going further. It's not, they're not taking out any vegetation. But we just need to, I think it would be helpful for the record to show that that's what we evaluated it against rather than the performance standards for 10.58.
No, I
So
agree.
is that
Laura, do you understand this?
is that just a matter of them sort of updating their narrative, or let's
I
give
think
them
so,
some
yeah.
clear direction on what they need to.
So
Yeah.
one thing I would just ask, the general performance standard does require an alternatives analysis. And I do think that's
I agree. I
a
don't
bit of
think
a
we need
burden for this
look
kind
at
of
an
work.
alternative to protect the
Yeah.
parking lot. So maybe just like a sentence that says, this is all occurring in the previously, well, I guess that's not, in the already developed area. I don't see a need for an alternatives analysis because you're
Me neither.
not expanding out. And the entire site is already packed to the gills, so there's nowhere else to go other than closer to the river, which we don't want.
But we do want to see some breakdown on how you came up with how we meet the stormwater standards. The
So
best.
that's part two. So I
best we
think, does everybody feel comfortable with the resolution we've come to about the resource area performance standards, whether we're regulating under part 5 or part 4 of 10.58?
I guess so. I feel like it's a bit muddled because you're telling them they should follow the general performance standards, and I did carefully look at that alternatives analysis to see if they would need to meet it, and then I concluded they did not, but that was because I consider this completely under redevelopment. So I feel like things are kind of muddled in my head, like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just feel like
No, I agree that the part 4 really isn't written, like they kind of wrote the regulations as if you're either developed before 1996 or you're not developed at all. So it's kind of hard dealing with these like already developed but not previously developed portions of the riverfront area.
but if the building was there and maybe they were all, what was there before 97? I still go back to like, if 75% of the lot is developed.
But it's not about the lot, it's about the riverfront area itself.
Hmm.
So that's,
which was wooded in
Which
one of
was
those
wooded.
photos you had.
yeah.
Okay, well, if that's how we should interpret it, then.
I agree it would be smoother to interpret it under part 5, but as long as it makes sense to VHB and it makes sense to others, since the ultimately, like, I think all we're asking for is the meeting the stormwater standards to the extent practicable.
Okay.
That's what I think we'd like to see. And I think you've got a storm scepter in the system. You've got this tree that we were going to add. We just need to see how those things remove suspended solids. I mean, I think it's a calculation you probably have come close to because you've already sized the storm scepter. I may be wrong, Laura. You're shaking your head. Yes.
So moving on to the stormwater standards, I think like what Leo was saying, the one thing that seemed rather outstanding was that we need a TSS removal calculations for both treatment trains to show that you're meeting the 80% TSS removal, and if you can't, then like, what did you look at? Like, why is that the case? Like, why is it not practicable to achieve that? And then same thing with phosphorus removal, because we do have the TMDL in the Charles River watershed, which I think requires 65% removal for this type of site. So, showing what did you look at to try and achieve that, and if it wasn't, if you weren't able to get, just like an explanation of why, if it's not possible, but show us that you've done what you can to get there.
So just a aside, Laura, the first time I realized that we could not do any infiltration other than the size of the lot because you had materials below a dump. That was the first time I heard it was tonight.
Yeah, same here. I guess I don't know how it works with adding things to the record. Like, I guess if we're already amending the narrative, putting that in there, I guess in talking about stormwater standard 3 would be helpful to know, but perhaps just having it in the minutes is sufficient. I don't know what people think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if they could make a comment when they do the stormwater, when they justify not meeting 80%, they just say, well, we can't infiltrate because we have
That's a good point.
a dump. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
an
one of the
excellent point.
justifications, which again, I first heard that tonight. So
Same.
I
Yeah,
think that's
I don't know, Leo, if it's technically a landfill. They coded it. I downloaded a few things from the DEP's website, and they listed it as historic contamination.
okay.
Maria, may I jump in there on the landfill? This is Hugh Hahn from VHB.
Okay.
My team is at a bit of a disadvantage tonight, where we would be in other meetings where we could be, we could huddle at our desk.
Right.
So I apologize for the crickets over here. We've been texting on the side a little bit, but having some challenges with that. When we were looking for historic aerial photographs to try to confirm the date of the construction of the parking lot in the back, and I think that what we've arrived at in your discussion of 1997, we were looking for records during COVID and we had limitations on what we could go find. So your arrival at 1997, I think, is reasonable. I appreciate the arrival at the decision that an alternatives analysis isn't necessary, given that we're not encroaching further into the riverfront or taking any vegetation. The site is, in fact, a former Watertown landfill, and the contamination on the site is extensive across the surface. I apologize that this is the first time that the point's been made this succinctly. I was under the impression it had been made in our previous meeting, if not in the previous filing. So it is in fact a landfill. Heavy metals, lots of other nasty stuff in the soil. Aranta Bio through DC Bean and Associates has done an extensive amount of remediation on the site in the form of removing contaminated soils. The pavement and the building act in large part as a cap to the contamination, as well as some depth of soil in areas. The ability to infiltrate is definitely not available here on this property. We've looked at the StormTech unit as a BMP to replace an existing catch basin, and because we can't infiltrate, we've also now offered the Filtera unit, the tree filter box, to be installed adjacent to the existing catch basin that's near the oil and particle separator. There are some elements of analysis in our supplementary stormwater management report that I'm hoping will address some of your other questions, and I would want to give my colleague Craig Finn an opportunity to chime in on a couple of those. And I'm going to let go of the space bar and turn back the floor.
Thank you. That was very informative.
Yeah, that was really helpful. We could have saved the previous people a lot of time repeatedly asking them why there's no rain gardens if we do that.
Yeah.
Um, okay.
That was the context in which I thought we brought it up last time, but I may not have been clear about it, so I apologize.
I don't remember seeing anything in the text regarding that either.
Yeah, if it was there, I also missed it, Leo.
Yeah.
So, but at least
Yeah.
we're on the same page now.
Well, I'm getting old, so I miss things.
No, we did not know that. In fact, I thought they had said that when I suggested the rain garden in that corner, there was something about it wouldn't collect that much stormwater runoff was the reason they gave us.
Right. Yeah. That's
So
what I
in
remember too.
any event, now we know, and
Yeah.
I know that they've been taking away hundreds of tons of contaminated soil, which is costly. So I did see that and confirm that. I didn't realize it was an old landfill though either. So that was good to know. It may not even be worthwhile to do the tree box filter then. I don't know.
If it can work.
It'll be
Right on.
lined, right? Like that's not going to infiltrate. It's just a treat. Is that correct?
Right.
That's
The tree box filter has a media volume in it that the plant grows in, and then when that media is oversaturated with a larger rain, that fills up, and then through a bypass pipe, it would bypass over to the not bypass, it would filter through and then rise and then go over to the adjacent catch basin. So that's why we locate them next to a catch basin, so the overflow from the filter unit has a place to go that stays within the stormwater system.
What's the life of the tree?
They tend to only be, Leo, like 7 to 10 years. You can get a little longer.
Okay.
So,
So it's part of the maintenance program.
Yeah,
That is correct.
So we'll have to see that updated maintenance plan too.
There was an
Remember the
operation
condition.
and maintenance plan attached to the narrative that Laura submitted through
Right, but if it doesn't
Arantha
have the tree box filter in the plan, I don't think it's in the one that we have. So
Right. Yeah.
Jamie, my apologies, you're correct. It is not there. We would like to have that. We'd like to be conditioned to add the tree box filter as well as provide that additional element to the operations and management plan or maintenance plan.
And with regard to the total phosphorus removal, the storm scepters don't get total phosphorus removal credit, right? Like it's just the TSS removal. Is that accurate?
that's how I understand it.
It is TSS, yes. But with the addition of the tree box filter catching that whole back parking lot, we are picking up a significant area.
I was wondering, what is the literature on the tree box filter and total phosphorus removal? The stormwater handbook just has it as not published, but that was obviously from 2008. So
I can give that to you,
Okay.
Jamie. It's somewhere probably between 40 and 60%. I'd have to look up the charts in the MS4 permit.
Okay.
If you want.
I believe the manufacturer's literature is around 65%, but
Okay.
I think if you're abiding by the MS4 permit, that's going to be your jurisdiction, or I mean your regulation.
Got it. And for the other, since there's 2 treatment trains here, for the other one that only has the storm scepter, is there like an opportunity to put a jellyfish filter in a catch basin anywhere? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's only that storm scepter, but that could be another potential thing to look at for the second treatment train to get some total phosphorus removal.
Jamie, I've been studying a lot of this for my full-time job. And unfortunately, EPA does not give any credit for any of these proprietary systems. So even the storm scepter, they consider.
I was talking about the jellyfish filter.
Yes, I understand.
Even that. No.
I'm sorry, Jamie. I completely understand what you're saying. Any of those proprietary systems are not given any credit for the town to take for phosphorus removal. They're not on this list of 12 items that they provide as creditable. They remove them, and those proprietary companies may have to, help fight for our communities to get some credit. But currently on the MS4 permit, on the jellyfish or any sort of proprietary, like I'm putting in a focal point system. Well, actually that's biofiltration, so it would qualify. But I have Fabco filters in catch basins around Crystal Lake, and we get no credit for phosphorus around them. So I would be hesitant for two reasons. One, for that, and two, because it's an ongoing maintenance item that who's going to check on them to constantly change those filters. They also have a lot of times, most of the times they have to get rid of them. So there's a landfill aspect of it to get rid of it. I am not of the mindset to further require that. I think that it's a nice thing to put in the tree box filter in addition to the one water quality inlet that they provided. And I think that's more than sufficient given the level of development here.
Okay, no, that makes total sense. Thank you for sharing that information. It's really helpful.
You're welcome.
So with regard to Jamie's question about how much suspended solids are we actually removing, do we have an idea, or are you going to provide us a calculation?
With Craig, did you include a calculation on the TSS removal for these 2 treatment trains within the supplemental stormwater management? I believe
I didn't see it.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I did forget to include the TSS removal calculation spreadsheet. Again, as a storm scepter unit, again, the manufacturer's literature states that they can remove, 80+% of TSS removal, but we can, we can run we can get the sizing calculation and get the outputs from the manufacturer to show what that for that unit being installed, what the TSS removal would be.
I mean,
And the same for the other. What about
Yeah.
the other? What about the other train?
So that would ultimately be the tree box filter to the catch basin, to the oil particle separator, and then out.
Okay.
So again, we can.
So yeah, we
for
didn't
that,
see those. They were not included either.
is we can provide those the TSS treatment train calcs and the sizing calculations.
Okay, thank you. Is there?
so kind of hearing everything that I'm hearing, at least for me, Leo, like I actually think we could condition those things
Okay.
and not need to wait.
I have.
But I'm interested to know
Is there any more
others.
stormwater, Charlie? Anything on the stormwater? You got anything, Charlie?
Well, I had a general question about the old landfill.
Okay.
And I would assume that, and I don't know when this was done, when this cap was put in, but I assume that there must be a record, a 21E report or a decision from.
That was be prior to 1962.
Well, okay, I didn't know that.
Well, the building's 1962.
Okay, so you're saying that they capped the landfill before 1962? There must be some source of information as to what they capped it with and how deep the cap is. I just would prefer to have that in our record if that information is known. Otherwise, what you're telling me is that there is a landfill of some unknown depth, which presumably does have the potential to release stuff to the surface. And I'm just a little lost at how that we just don't take that into account.
I will speak with the Aranta Bio in terms of the records that have been amassed for their environmental site assessments and their RAM plans for their soil removal, the contaminated soil removal from within the building and whatever site construction they work on. This was a town of Watertown landfill historically.
Yeah.
And I don't know the year in which it was capped, or capped or closed by the town of Watertown, but we can provide you with information for the record as a condition.
If they have all of that in some sort of executive summary rather than a mountain of documents, I think that would be all we need. I mean, at this point, I just have only the vaguest idea of what we're talking about. So, I'd like to see something.
We would be happy to make an executive summary available to the commission as a condition.
Okay. Yeah, I would suggest that that's who you should ask for that.
Right. In the interest of efficiency.
I just have one
Leah?
other item. I have one other item. And that's the area for the, I'm sorry about my dog. He's stuck with me in the basement. The area that we allot for the fire, I forget what drawing it shows, is a spot that shows a fire truck turnaround. Lori, you know where it is? You know which drawing it's on?
I will try to find it for you.
No, it's one of the drawings, but it's right next to the tree filter. And it's required because it's required because there it is. Thank you. It's required because the trucks need a space to do a turn. So I think it's currently shown as paved. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. It is existing pavement, and we're intending to stripe it so that nobody parks on it, and that way it's available for emergency vehicle turnaround.
So I was thinking, before I knew it was a landfill, I was thinking they have stuff that you could put on there that allow water to go through it, and you could grass it, and even a fire truck could go on it without, it's a mesh that holds the soils together and gives it a load so it can handle the bearing load from the wheels. So, but I guess that's kind of crazy. I didn't realize we had such a mess there. So that probably wouldn't be feasible, I guess, having a permeable area in that part of the site. Permeable pavement.
Yeah, and well, we're taking some pavement and we're depaving it and planting it, and we're taking some broken concrete next to it and depaving that and planting it. I would like to limit, I think, the amount of materials we excavate and remove from the site. And so,
okay, that's a good answer. I just thought it would be a way to get more of a less impervious area. That's the only thought I had. And I know they have these things that trucks can roll over without and still have permeable area. So I guess I'll table that request.
Yeah, and just to build on what Hugh said, Leo, I've heard of the plastic grid thing that you're referring to, and I've seen it used on other sites. It was used as similar case here of it was an emergency access for the fire department, but the thing got torn to shreds in the winter.
Yeah,
plow guys don't realize it's there. The plow gets too low, it got torn up, and
I've seen that as well.
Emergency that they're going to want to keep it clear. Well. So.
But they do make commercial ones that are really pretty good in some places. But you're right. Most of the places are where they don't plow. Okay. So I guess we have to see how we want to go forward. And Jamie, do you think we can condition the items that you're looking for?
I do. Now that we've kind of talked through it, I feel confident that both those treatment trains will achieve the 80% TSS removal. So I think if we just condition that, the calculations must show that it does in fact achieve the 80% TSS, then that should be sufficient. And knowing about the limitations with infiltration kind of explains, how the phosphorus removal is limited. So just, if they submit those calculations and document what they're proposing and why they're proposing it, I think that will meet that requirement.
All right. Charlie, are you comfortable with that as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Maria, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I would add to that. I mean, I don't think, I'm reading it that they don't necessarily have to meet 80%, but I'm fine to go with.
Whatever they can do, actually. It's practicable. If they
Right,
they
but if
can't
we're
add much more.
Yeah, well, we're conditioning it, so like there won't be an opportunity to go back and discuss it. So, like I think we can't leave the condition open-ended.
But what if they can't, what if what they're doing doesn't give you 80%? And to me, I really don't see it as mattering, because there's an oil water separator, which is probably one of those old like oil sediment separators at the end of in one line. So that could count. And I don't even know how you put that in that TSS calculator spreadsheet. I'm not even sure that's,
It
I
counts
don't,
as a pre-treatment device.
it should.
Yeah, it gets credit for pre-treatment.
I just don't feel comfortable saying they have to do 80%, because I feel like that puts them in a place that they might have to lie on the form. I would just prefer that the form be submitted as to what are the controls they're doing, and that little table just gets submitted.
Right. Well, I mean, so they're proposing what they're proposing, so we know that it's what the treatment train is, and we know just based on seeing the, like knowing what the removal efficiencies are, and I guess taking Craig on his word, that it will show 80%. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's somewhat an issue of semantics. The only thing that I don't like about leaving it open-ended is that it has to be to the maximum extent practicable. So if they changed something and proposed something different, and all we said was show your calculations, and we didn't think they were meeting it to the extent practicable, we wouldn't have any recourse. So if the condition is that it's these specific BMPs with the associated calculations, I think that would work.
Okay, what if another reason why I don't feel like it's super important is because the outlet pipe for all of this goes to a big stone detention basin, which is also further going to collect sediment. Yeah, right over there. And to be honest, I don't know who if anybody maintains it, but but that
trust me, it's just a big stone basin. I've been there.
Yeah,
Not a whole lot of plants in it.
Right, and actually there would be plants in it if it was silted in. So I just don't really feel like it's so critical to say it has to be 80%. If you wanted to say 60%, but I just feel like there's a treatment train even beyond their property before it gets to the river that is also something to consider.
So I think we're all in agreement. It's just how to craft the language of the condition. Like what I don't want to see is us issue a permit with a condition that can be met by removing the tree box filter because they don't have to meet the 80%, so either say that the permit can be issued contingent on these BMPs being installed with the associated calculations, whatever they are. We know it's going to be 80% because that's just what you get when you put those pieces together. Or so either we condition the specific BMPs that have been proposed to us, and then require calculations. I mean, maybe that's one way to do it.
That would certainly be acceptable, Jamie, is to condition the improvements that we've listed, and then the calculation that goes with those improvements.
Right.
That sounds good. That sounds good to me. I feel more comfortable about doing it that way. Like say,
I agree. We'll do it that way. So what else do we have in the condition? We're gonna have that for a condition. There was a few other things, Jamie, you were looking for as well. Oh, the
we have to
clarification
update the O&M plan to include the tree box filter.
The clarification on the date.
Clarification on the date.
And that's
sounded like Charlie wanted we wanted the executive summary mentioning the landfill.
Okay.
And then with the calculations, in addition to TSS, the phosphorus removal calculations, And for anything that doesn't meet the 65% removal, just explaining why the removal has been achieved to the extent practicable.
So Jamie, that 65% is like a town-wide goal. And it's not in our Wetlands Protection Act or anything.
It's in the stormwater handbook. You have, if there's a TMDL associated with the area where the project is, then it has to, in addition to the TSS removal in standard 4, you also have to meet that TMDL removal. And for the lower, for the
To the
Trout
maximum
River,
extent practicable.
Right.
exactly.
Everything-
So they
everything
have to
is-
meet it,
everything
and
is-
if they can't, then they have to explain why. So, like that's just required for redevelopment projects.
Okay, well, it's very confusing too, because in our own MS4 permit, in the EPA permit, it's 50% is the rule for redevelopment, 50% reduction of total phosphorus for redevelopment projects. For projects on completely virgin sites, they have to achieve 60%. That's per the EPA federal MS4 permit. But there's a it's a little bit confusing right now because the state doesn't quite jive with the EPA MS4 permit. So,
I think that it's, well, you probably know better how all these pieces go together, but I think the TMDL is usually related to the Clean Water Act and water's being listed as impaired.
yes, it's just a little complicated, the percentage that an actual project, so townwide, there's a goal, townwide, but then project specific wise, it's there's a little bit of a disconnect. In any event, however you want to do it, Jamie, I'm just telling you what I know from my job, that there's a disconnect between what the state DEP is proposing. They're actually currently working on updating their stormwater standards so that it jives with the MS4 permit, because the two don't jive. And so
I got it. Okay.
And removal on a redevelopment project for phosphorus is what the EPA asks us to target. And 60% phosphorus removal if it's like total new development.
Right.
So 65 is a really high number, and that's the only reason I mention it. But if you want to do that, that's.
It's all,
I mean, we've already locked in on the BMP, so they're removing what they're going to remove.
Right.
So all we need is the documentation of the updated plans, and then the calculations, and for the ones that for the extent practical can't meet the full stormwater standard, just the explanation of why. So, no, I don't think anything's going to change.
Craig, Laura, you comfortable with those comments?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That was Laura, I take it, right? All right. So I take it you want to condition this site and move on so you can get this permit done.
Leo, my only comment on this whole thing I didn't even get to say is that all of this stuff doesn't matter worth a hill of beans if the operation and maintenance plans are not implemented. So my only comment was that VHB did a nice job on the long-term, not the construction one, but the long-term O&M plan. And there's a nice little checklist that they provided.
Yep.
And I want it conditioned that checklist, and it could be a simple little cover letter, this does not have to be onerous, is submitted annually, let's say by December 31st to the Conservation Commission, and that they follow and that they provide any, not invoices, but any backup information that says they might have needed to clean out the oil or sediment separator or anything, just showing that they did their checklist, that they following the plan. And that to me is probably the most important part of all of these things going, and what amount of phosphorus they're going to give. There's stuff that they're not even really going to be able to calculate, that you get phosphorus removal just because they're taking up some asphalt. So that's, and I don't know if it's really worth making them do the phosphorus one, but if we want to, fine. I think the TSS little chart, because that's quick and easy, they should be able to provide that pretty quickly.
I think we have in the past a condition that we get reports from those storm scepters. I know it's a brand name, but I don't think we've seen them. So the question is, why don't we get them? So we have to go back and check those we've done in the past so we can start getting reports.
No, Leo, I'm not talking about just about the storm scepter. It's like street sweeping. It's a checklist
Oh,
of
it's a checklist.
multiple. It's a checklist of multiple things that they would do. They
Right.
would check the new tree filter that they're going to put in. They would check maybe the vegetated areas that they're proposing. They would check the storm scepter. It was a list of several things in a checklist. It's not just particular to that storm scepter. It's
Right,
a
okay,
multi
right.
across the whole site, looking
I
at your
did read
drainage.
the one they provided.
Yeah, check your catch basins. How are they cleaned? You know, so it's about 4 or 5 things on that checklist, and the
was
tree box filter needs to be added.
Right.
That's my only comment.
All right. Do we have any more comments?
I had one. I didn't see the grading lines on the grading and drainage plan. Are those, is it just
It's
not
on
showing?
the SV1 drawing, whatever that is.
The SV1 is the survey drawing, the existing conditions. The grading on the site is very limited. We're working with the existing pavement surface that's there, and then where we're depaving, we're just putting enough loam and seed to bring it back to that level again. There is some grading at the very front of the building so that we can get the pedestrian access up to the doors. And there is grading to add soil on top of the easement on the west side of the property.
Yeah, it's definitely on SV1. I found it there, and I found it one other place.
Because if it,
You got to go
whatever
back one page,
grading
Laura.
needs to be shown on the constructed one too, just so that when it's built, we'll have something to see what, if there's a big mound somewhere, we'll know.
That, Jamie, as I understand it, it's on sheet C003, and I didn't see any proposed grading other than where her hand is now, only on that side, the building. There's no proposed grading except where they had to put some concrete pads in.
That's correct. So this is the plan on the screen right now is our grading and drainage plan.
Yep.
As you mentioned, within the existing parking areas, there's no changes to grades. We have some grading at the front of the building between the building and Pleasant Street where there's the new walkways and things to get up to the new entry doors, and an employee amenity space out front there, and then some grading on the western side of the building as it relates to capping of some contaminated materials over there. But there's no new grading within the
Sorry, I see it now.
jurisdictional
I think my
areas.
screen was just too small when I was looking at it earlier, but I see it now. And then my other question was about the erosion control barriers. Like, why are they just shown in 2 little small sections? Like, can you explain a little bit more with the repaving and stuff, like why they're not needed along the whole thing?
We limited it to just in the areas that were immediately adjacent to where the depaving was happening. Obviously, with the tree box filter going in, we can add a little bit more around where that particular item would be going in. At the time when this plan was done, it wasn't included. So we didn't feel that we needed an extensive amount. If the commission feels they would like it extended further around the areas of where the depaving is happening, we can absolutely adjust the plan to show that as we're doing an update anyway with the tree box filter.
I know Maria and Leo, you guys have been to the site. Does it need to be extended in your opinions?
Well, well, I've been to the site a couple of times. They did install I was the site before they put all the fill along the Stop and Shop and driveway. And they put the wattles exactly where I asked them to put it. They extended it for me, and I was happy with where they had it previously, because there is a curb along the backside, I think. So I didn't have a problem. I mean, I'm not sure the fill placed along the Stop and Shop is going to go anywhere. They actually have covers over it now, so the rain would run off of it. So I guess I'm happy with what they did. Maria, any?
Same, I didn't see any issues. And I'm trying to remember on the sidewalk Stop and Shop side, is that the side that has all the big stone? Because it's steeply sloped there.
Yeah, that's been covered with a cloth right now.
Okay, yeah, then that's fine. That one area would need to be watched where they're doing the grate, where it's bare and they took down all the trees.
Just be a stone, but it's been covered.
All right,
Yeah.
so just to be clear, so you don't think that the straw wattle needs to extend along the backside of the parking lot? It's okay just in the areas where they're doing the tree box and the.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's a curb. So they can't get out of the parking lot. So there is a curb.
Okay.
I don't think I think for what they're doing, there's not much.
Okay.
This is Joe Geico with DC Bean. We actually do have straw wattle around the whole back of that parking lot. But I agree with Leo. It is at the top of curb, so it's not going to do much. But if we do ever get any heavy storms, it does back up. There is extra protection there as well as along the west side, as he stated.
Thank you. I thought we had something there. All right. So I guess if if we're done with questions and we're satisfied, we can condition this. I'm going to ask to close the hearing. So can I have a motion to close the hearing?
Leo, don't you have to ask if there's any public comments?
Oh, okay. I didn't see any public comment. Is there anybody from the public that has a comment? I don't control this.
They're welcome to email me.
Laurel, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I have not received any emailed comments.
And there's no other people present other than the applicants, I don't think, is there? Laurel?
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't.
Okay,
seem to
I
be,
guess
so.
you can't tell. So okay, if there's no Charlie.
Leo, I have a question. We've been talking about a lot of submissions that we're supposed to be getting, and we're going to condition what our approval on what we see. So I'm wondering whether this is the right moment to close the hearing. And I take it if we close the hearing that we're going to be drafting an order of conditions tonight, or should
Yes.
we wait until we get all of the stuff that we're supposed to get?
No, we have to provide that within 7 days. We got to do it tonight if we do it.
We've got to do it. We got it if we close the hearing, but
Right.
can't we extend the hearing until we see everything that we've been talking about?
We could. We could.
I mean, I'd
Is
be
there-
comfortable doing it that way, frankly, because it sounds like we're going to have a lot of work to do if we're going to put everything we just discussed right now into it. With that based on,
Is there an issue if we continue one hearing rather than issue the permit now, or it's not going to stop you from doing any work, correct?
I believe that they want to continue working, and there's planting they'd like to do. I think that, DC Bean would like to get around to installing the tree box filter and wrapping the site up before winter gets here.
So we meet again in 3 weeks. Would this be, I'm just saying, is there a pressing issue? We've been working without a permit or anyway, so I don't know that this is going to be a deal breaker. I just want to know if there's a problem, because it hasn't stopped you from doing anything you wanted to do anyway.
So Leo, we haven't done any of the work or depaving or additional plantings in the regulated area. Obviously, we've done work inside the building and at the front of the building. So, and we've kind of held off on any other landscaping or other areas that are outside the regulated area based on getting clarifications at this hearing. So we would like to have approval at least for everything north of the regulated area at the Pleasant Street to be able to get that in, and then maybe delay just the portion of the riverfront. But as Hugh stated, we are definitely fighting the winter and landscaping, and there is some items we would like to do in that area. If we need to postpone another month or so for just the back part, we could probably do that. But we definitely are not doing any of the work that's proposed in the regulated area, and we've held off because of this.
Charlie, if it makes
All
you
right,
feel
well,
better,
I
like
sort of agree.
nothing that they're submitting is, I think we're all in agreement on what the design is and what stormwater BMPs are going in. So, like, I don't think that we would receive any material that would then make us request something different. So for that reason, I'm comfortable conditioning everything tonight. If there was information that we might receive that would change what we want, then I would say we leave the hearing open. But other than it's just a lot of, it's more work for us to do tonight. But
Maria?
I'm fine either way.
I'm fine to condition it tonight. My only, and I hate to even bring this up, my only cause for pause in accordance with what Charlie said is I'm a little curious if there's an activity and use limitation that would preclude the ability to put in that tree box filter because it's digging.
You know, it bothers me that we just heard about this tonight, and we have no information on it.
But Charlie, they're mostly not doing any digging at all. Where they did digging, they've already done it. And it's on the Stop and Shop side, and yeah, and so, but it would be, it would be good to know if there is an activity and use limitation due to the.
They would know that. Is there any
Yeah.
are there any restrictions on the site?
There are, the only restrictions on the site are to characterize the soil before disturbing it, or excuse me, before disposing of it, and treating it or managing it correctly on site while it's stockpiled.
Which you did.
Right. An activity and use limitation would go to residential or agricultural or play areas, or having the site covered in a certain depth of topsoil or pavement or building. So there isn't anything that would preclude the installation of a drainage structure.
Okay, so you don't have a requirement to keep that pavement intact?
So long as we replace it with an adequate depth of soil, which would, or with another impervious surface. So the tree box filter itself would be the impervious barrier to that soil, which would prevent someone visiting the site or anything from exposing themselves or to the contaminated soil. We've been with the regulations and conditions that are imposed on the site because of its environmental condition. They have been removing soil from within the building, which is over the landfill. We've installed new utility trenches. All of these things are documented in our in DC Bean's reports to the EPA and Massachusetts DEP. So there is not there isn't a environmental hazard in installing this tree box filter that's any different than any other utility work we've been doing on the site.
Okay. And you've
All
been
right, Charlie, you comfortable with if we could just condition it?
I can live with it. It's not the way I do it, but
No, I know that. I prefer to wait, but I think they want to get, unless we just tell them they can go ahead and work outside the area of our jurisdiction.
well, to be honest with you, I prefer to go that way. I mean, and we haven't seen.
Okay, all right, I agree. All right, so do you have a problem, Joe, do you have a problem if we tell you you can work outside of our jurisdiction without an issue?
I don't. You guys are the ones that decide what we're doing, so I don't have a problem if we
I'm
do
just
that.
trying to not hold you up.
No, that's helpful. Do we know when the next the timeline on the next hearing would be?
The first Wednesday in October.
And then how long after that before order conditions would be issued?
Well, that we do it's within 7 days, right, Laurel?
I don't know if there's a 30-day appeal period or not after that.
Oh, 21 days? No. Yeah, there is an appeal period.
So that was
so
what,
that's the end
that's
of
what was
October.
worrying us, is if it goes to that, then we're into November, and then it's going to be tough to get that depaving and those plantings in within the requirements of the
As Charlie did say, some of these things were the first time we've heard it is tonight. So it's kind of hard. And to be honest, we should have done this over a year ago, to be honest. So,
And they originally did, eventually file with us in March. And then, of course,
well, it's COVID. Well, we
the
can't
world
control
changed.
that.
So, I know. It's just, yeah.
Oh, so they did file in March?
This was supposed to be heard for the first time at our March meeting, which got canceled. Sorry, April. They filed in March for our April meeting, which got canceled. May got canceled. So.
Leo, I will just add, or Charlie, if you want to listen in, I do see a paper trail with the DEP. They're doing all their release abatement measures. Every time they're digging a trench and they're seeing contaminated soil, it looks like they've got all the proper paperwork submitted to the Department of Environmental Protection, if that gives you any.
What are they seeing in the contaminated soil?
Like you said, a lot of heavy metals, petroleum aromatic hydrocarbons,
Manganese, perhaps?
naphthalene, anthrapoethene, petroleum hydrocarbons. Crap. Technical word.
Well, I think I think we'll condition it, Charlie. I think we'll I think we've been clear enough what we want, and I think if we get it, we'll it's to the best practicable. If it doesn't make the 80%, they can't do much anything else anyway. So I think we'll go forward with the conditions tonight, so they can get their plantings going before the end of October.
Okay. All right.
It's just a time frame issue that was not brought on by us, but a lot of issues. So I'd like to. I don't want to strap them any more than they already strapped. So.
Okay.
So I guess I'd like to vote a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Okay. A roll call vote. Charlie.
Aye.
Jamie.
Aye.
Maria.
Aye.
And Leo is an aye. So meeting is closed. We will do the order of conditions and we'll get that out to you. We're going to do that right now, as a matter of fact.
Thank you very much, members of the commission. I assume that with the closing of the hearing, that closes the opportunity for the proponent to comment or to interject.
Well, you should have said something, but go ahead, say it.
No, if that is closed, I'm closed for what I want to say relative to the hearing. I did, yes. I wanted to say thank you very much for your consideration and your efforts. They are appreciated.
Okay.
You're welcome. Please
I'd like to echo that as well. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Just keep doing the right thing, because all we're trying to do is make sure that we don't have contamination or anything bad going towards our beloved Charles River.
I like the idea. Yes. I like the idea that came up during the week of the tree box. I thought that would be helpful for us. That was a good idea. So if our group has our pages, so we can go through this and figure out the order conditions.
I just need a minute. I have mine.
Okay. And then maybe we could do the special ones first, and then we can just whip through the other ones. So maybe I don't know, Jamie or Marie, you want to word that some of your special conditions so we can get Susan to get them.
Yeah. Just trying to find my copy of the conditions.
My only special condition was on the O&M, the long-term O&M, but I think maybe Jamie, you should go first with the TSS calculation sheet. We want that submitted.
Yep. So we want a condition that says that the applicant TSS removal calculation sheets for the 2 treatment trains, consisting of the existing stormwater infrastructure with the one catch basin replaced with the storm scepter, and the other, is it a catch basin being replaced with the tree
No, it's a
filter
tree box and then the catch basin.
the tree box and then the catch basin.
And then
We need to condition that there be an updated plan set showing the tree filter box along with associated detail, and an updated operation and maintenance plan that includes the tree filter box. And then next we'll want calculations for the total phosphorus removal for the treatment trains. And if the phosphorus removal doesn't meet the required amount per the TMDL, a brief description as to why. And then we wanted an updated narrative showing that, explaining how the riverfront area meets the general performance standard as opposed to the previously developed performance standards. And then we wanted an executive summary of the landfill condition on site. And then Maria had the good idea to add a condition, a reporting requirement for the showing compliance with the operation and maintenance plan
Yes,
annually.
my thing would be the stormwater operation and maintenance plan. That the checklists that are in there and the activities discussed in that O&M plan, that we get an annual report. It doesn't need to be anything crazy, just that they performed it. These are the results of their annual maintenance checks on the stormwater structures on the site. And that be submitted annually by December 31st. And the first one would probably, I don't know, depending on maybe if it would be this.
they can always submit a report this year. Installed and operational.
And Maria, do we want to make that one in perpetuity?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, that was very good. I think you hit them all.
All right.
Yeah, I would just add on the executive summary of the landfill. I mean, like, it could be a couple of paragraphs. I don't know if it needs to, there was a landfill operated by the town. It was operated for so many decades. It closed and was capped, and it probably wasn't really capped. It was probably, what they did, put soil on top. And it doesn't probably need to be much more than whatever they would have had done for a 21E. When they bought the property. They probably should be able to excerpt something out of their.
That's what I expect. That's what I was thinking, that they would have that in a report, in a record. They could just excerpt that.
Exactly, Charlie. Yeah,
I'm
sure they know what a 21E report is. I forget. It's the environmental due diligence regs.
Yes, we're aware. Yes, and we can pull an excerpt from the materials that have already been prepared.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so I think that's all the special conditions we wanted to add. I think Jamie hit them all, correct? So why don't we just go to our standards and just try to go through them pretty quickly.
So one thing I wanted to say, Leo,
Yes,
is my copy of the conditions got cut off. So I just wanted to point out if maybe Laurel, could you go down the list? I usually do that very methodically, but my copy got damaged for tonight. Sorry, thank you.
So number 30 is the planting seasons, which, well, we can put it in. Number 30 is about the season of planting. Most people plant after October 15th. No,
Wait.
no.
Leo, I'm so sorry. Mine special conditions list, maybe I have an old one. It starts with number 18, not number
Oh.
30.
Oh, sorry.
18
Hold on.
sounds correct, Maria.
Hold on. I'm out of order here. Imagine that. That happens, you know.
I don't know.
Okay.
Jake, what do you have? Mine starts with 18.
I got 18. I'm sorry. I'm with you. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Maybe I don't know why it starts with the number 18 for the special
So 18
condition.
is correct. 18A. That's
18A. Yep.
Do we need B? Yeah, we can have B. That's just you provide Laurel with your name and contact information. I think we already have it, so that's pretty good.
C is probably not applicable.
No, not now.
Did you say E, Maria?
I just said C is not applicable.
All right, thank you.
So
D
18A,
is.
18A, B, and D.
Okay.
E, well, they've already started work, so there's no need for E.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about that one. 19. That's just to show that the DPW got it. 20 is not applicable. We're not putting any new outlets in.
Correct.
21 would be applicable.
I'd hope the hell not, but hopefully there's no sewer line breaks. But yeah, I guess. So they need to submit a detailed contingency plan?
Yep. Ooh. Yeah.
So that is applicable?
I
A
don't
little
know.
late, but I'm sure they must have given something to Matt. All they have to do is copy and give it to us. That's requiring an emergency contingency plan if you have a sewer break and it starts to go into the wetlands. So that's 21. Yeah, I think we need it.
But it says prior to the start of construction, they're almost done construction.
Well, it's still, how much? Yeah, I still put it in.
Okay. All right. 21 is a yes, Susan.
Okay, thank you.
22, a pre-construction meeting. I mean, I guess we could put it on there, but there is no pre-construction.
No, don't bother.
Don't bother? Okay. So no on 22. Yes on number 23. Yes, right?
Yes.
Yes.
24 is a yes. Uh, 25.
Yes,
Yes.
yep. Definitely
20
26.
26.
Mhm.
Yes.
27.
Yes.
Yes. We
don't need monthly construction reports. No.
No.
I would say
We're
no.
not-
I would say no to 28.
Correct. $29.
There really isn't
29.
any, there's no paving proposed. They're removing
Well,
paving.
see well, they gotta do,
No, there's no
they
paving.
gotta
The-
patch all these holes. Okay, no paving, all right. There's no paving, I think they're gonna pave in the front.
There's a little bit of grading on the front. I guess if you want it in there, but I don't even know if it's more like, it looks like patio pavers or something in the front.
Well, they're gonna have to pave around the storm scepter when they do it. So I just wanna make sure it's set before the,
Okay.
you know what I mean? I
Yep.
put it in. No harm.
29, yes, then.
Here goes back to 30, the planting season. We could put it in, but most people go past that October 15th date now. We should probably revise that.
Should we write it now or?
No,
Yeah,
not
do we want a
now.
later one for this then?
I'm sorry, what?
Do we want to change that date then for this
We can just
permit?
put a different date in November 1st.
If you
I was
want,
just-
make
I was going to
make
say,
it December.
November 1st sounds perfect, Charlie.
Okay.
On number 30?
Yep.
So on number 30, we're going to include it, Susan, but the planting growing season is from April 15th through November 1st.
So we're modifying the planting dates.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
31,
Yes.
Yes.
ooh, 32. I don't know if we can use that.
I would
That's
leave it
good.
off. It's not really applicable.
Well, it is applicable, but it's already done.
But that was already the way the grading was on the side of the building.
I don't want to put it on.
Yeah, you don't.
No.
Okay, so 32 is a no, Susan.
Thank you.
33 is not applicable. 34 is though.
Yes, yep.
35. I don't think that's too much. This,
I would say,
we don't have enough. We don't have enough soil to cover.
yeah,
Well,
I would say no to 35.
Well, I can. You can actually put it in. Put 35 in because they've already stabilized the slopes on the where the issue would be over by the Stop and Shop side.
Okay. Isn't that got stone on it though or something? You say it's covered.
It's got fabric over it now.
Okay,
The
all right.
The stone will erode. Heavy rains.
Okay,
But it's
so
covered.
35 is a yes.
Yep.
36 is a yes. We don't want any fuel oil or other
Mhm.
pollutants discharging off the site. Right?
Correct.
Correct.
Yep.
37.
Oh, yeah. No snow stockpiling near the wetland.
Is that one that should be in perpetuity, or is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
so
was
where that would be really important is in that back area near that stone basin that's really off their property. You don't want to have any blockage, you know.
So that
But
would be that would be Laurel, add in perpetuity in that one item.
On 37?
Yes. 38, but it's kind of a moot point.
So 38's a
39.
no?
No, it's a 38. You put it in, but it's just a moot point. It's already done. 39 is a yes,
Yep.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
40 yes.
Yep,
41A,
yes,
40B, 41B.
yes.
Do we want an as-built at the end of this thing?
That's a good question. I almost feel like we should defer to either Laurel or do you know if if Matt Schuman wanted an as-built plan, Laurel?
I'm going to answer it myself. I think we would want an as-built at the end of the drainage system, just so we have it for records. So
Okay.
when somebody else wants to do something at this site, we'll have a complete record.
Okay.
It'd be just one drawing. I mean, they can do as-built anyway.
Yep, just a site plan.
It'd be just a drainage and grading drawing.
Mhm.
Um,
So that's a yes on 41C
no D.
and no E.
What about E? Oh, no conservation restriction.
Yeah, there's already one that's been in place from before.
And here's 42 that you had asked about, a maintenance schedule for all,
They already submitted that.
we already have that. We did a special one on that one, right?
We already have their maintenance schedule. They already
Okay,
said
we
that
need to work
certain
that out.
things would be done twice a year, some things once a year. We have that. We just need to make sure that they actually submit it to us annually, their annual reporting.
Would that need to be amended to cover the new things, the tree basin?
Well, no, that'll be covered.
It'll all be covered? Okay,
in the maintenance plan, because we asked them to, it was mentioned earlier by Jamie.
okay.
Yeah,
So
we
he-
really,
he's-
we really need to make sure that, because we're going to forget. Laurel, can we make sure that we all get a copy of the updated stormwater, all the things that we asked for really at our next
Yeah.
meeting, even though we wouldn't, like, let's have this as an agenda item to
Mhm.
review those 4 items we requested so that we have them and that we know that they were submitted just as a checks and balances.
Right.
And we'll close the hearing and everything, but just so that we have it and we can make sure that we're all on the same page.
Absolutely. I will coordinate with the Aranta Bio team to make sure that they submit those things to me before our next meeting.
Thank you.
Item 45, by the way, is what we've already conditioned.
Yep.
And 46, we could put 46 in. Yeah, I suppose we can.
Yep, that's fine.
No,
46.
yes.
What, are you saying 46 is a yes? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I thought about it, but you think it's worth putting in?
I mean, that's a given. It
Okay.
is, I don't think it's necessary, but, and also we'd have to make sure that those things in parentheses actually get replaced with the wording that's there, and that could be overlooked. It's supposed to say water quality in the Charles River at blank. I would say leave it out unless people feel strongly.
I'll leave it out. I think that's it.
Great.
Do we need to go through any of the other ones, or?
You know what? I'm sorry. I changed my mind. I think we do put 46.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because when I went out there to look at the property, I did see a lot of drums of liquids and stuff for their processes.
Okay.
So I would like to say,
47 then too.
what's that?
I think you need 47 if you're going to put in 46.
I don't necessarily need them to do any sampling, but should somebody see that the outlet pipe going into that stone swale has a smell, a discoloration, or anything like that, and I think that the town might monitor right near there. So I don't think that we need the sampling.
Okay.
If we want to add back in the requirement for a monthly report, that's something that would get reported, like, right?
A monthly report? Where do you see that?
I thought there was a condition we decided we didn't wanted requiring a monthly construction report.
But they're almost done the whole construction project. They started almost a year ago.
Do you want to make it more frequent if you want somebody to monitor the outlet?
No, I don't. I don't need it at all. I don't need a monthly construction report. I think that's onerous. I was just saying that number 46, where it says water quality, and then in parentheses, it would be the Charles River at 650 Pleasant Street shall not differ significantly in the negative following the completion of the project from the pre-development condition. I think it would be good to just have that in there.
I don't know how we'd prove it though. Because first of all, most of the water that flows out of that basin, unless it's a flood stage, never gets to the Charles River without filtering through 50 or 60 feet of soil or rock. Whatever else.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
I think what Maria is describing is the consequence of something unexpected, like some
Gas spill or an oil spill.
employee turning a barrel of something over and letting
Right.
it out.
Exactly.
Well, we're covered for that earlier in one of our other comments about spilling oil in the wetlands, I think.
It's just that there were some
Okay.
like plastic.
No problem with putting it in. Let's put it in.
Okay, thank you.
So I think I think we need a motion to accept all the changes. I think, do I need another motion to accept the?
Do we need to go through any of the other conditions to add them in or take them out?
I think we went through all.
Oh, maybe I have the old set because mine goes through number
Yep. That's wetland
63.
replication and water quality.
Oh, okay. I see.
I don't think,
He just went through it really quickly. So none of the wetland replication section applies. And I think
right.
Leo just read faster than you and I.
I don't know. Maybe go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't think they applied.
I think you're right, Leo. I trust you. I didn't get through them all, but I think that makes.
How about number 53 down there?
Yeah, I think 53 should stay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
53 is good.
Yep.
Good, Charlie.
Yes, thank you, Charlie. That's a good one. Then the last section does not apply because they're not replicating any wetlands.
Right.
So I think we got through it. I hope you got that, Susan, and Laurel.
I took my own list, my own tallying too, so we'll make sure we get it.
Thank you very much.
Do we need to go through a motion to accept these things and move on?
No, I don't think
We're all
so.
done. Okay. All right. So that's it, guys. You heard them. I mean, I know we went through a whole bunch of numbers, but I think for the most part, it's just certificate of compliance and don't have an oil spill in our wetlands. All right. So our next item, we might be faster. Laura, we'll be faster now.
Yeah, so I
Thank
would,
you and good night.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
In
you.
the interest of time, I would suggest tabling the minutes until next time. And then is Patrick here?
No, Patrick here.
Okay.
I think we can get through the minutes. I didn't see anything in the minutes.
I'm just
Did it?
trying to.
I know, but did anybody have any comments in the minutes?
I did, yeah. And I'd be happy to. Oh, what did you? Are you making a face?
Yeah. So what? I go, no, it's fine.
They're quick.
I didn't see anything myself, but go ahead.
Well, one of it's just because and I apologize in advance, Susan, for one of them. So there's two comments. One is on page 2, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th paragraph, or the third paragraph up from the bottom, beginning with Rose.
Yeah.
So it says Rose said she agreed with O'Connell, blah, 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 but this project appeared to be a redevelopment project as it included clearing and depaving with no inside plumbing. I'd like to strike the words "with no inside plumbing" because
We didn't. Yeah, there was. Good idea.
there is. It was, and it's not your fault. I mentioned something about there were porta potties, like very close to that sentence. When I said something, it was a conversational thing. So I can see where you probably would have gotten confused. I meant that they didn't have plumbing inside the building at the time of my visit. But what I'd like to do is strike the word "with no inside plumbing" because they definitely have plumbing inside. But strike that last bit and then replace it with in addition to building interior renovations. So it would read, Rose said she agreed with O'Connell that clarification was needed, but this project appeared to be a redevelopment project as it included clearing and depaving in addition to building interior renovations.
Got that. Thank you.
And then there's something that is definitely wrong in the agent report on page 4. Again, not your fault either. It's just, I think it's actually extra hard taking notes with the remote more than it is even in person because it's hard to catch everything. So under CPA update, it said Rose reported that Jen Goldman, it's
Oh,
actually,
right.
it's JM, so it's J like Jen and M. So instead of Jen, it's her company, but it's JM Goldson. So Gold, S-O-N. And then so the consultant for the town
Got it.
thank you, is reviewing the surveys and compiling the data. Strike so that they can, instead it would say compiling the data into a draft community preservation plan, which would precede accepting applications in the fall.
Got it.
So I'm sorry about that. The consultant for the town, so it would be J.M. Goldson, and then just striking so that they can start accepting applications. The next step we're working towards is crafting a community preservation plan, which then precedes accepting applications in the fall.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Jamie, any comments?
I had a few on page 2, the third full paragraph up from the bottom. In that first sentence, O'Connell asked if the clearing in the back from 1999 to 2000 was ever permitted and if there was an order of conditions recognizing this as a paved area. I recommend striking from 1999 to 2000. We don't know when it happened, so I think just so that it would read, O'Connell asked if the clearing in the back was ever permitted and if there was an order of conditions, and then I'd end the sentence there.
Mm-hmm.
So striking also recognizing this as a paved area?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this is just a question, I don't remember it. Maybe this is correct. Further down where it says Joe Gayko of DC Bean and Associates listed construction materials such as fixtures, lighting, oxygen, and assured that was no fuels being stored there at the site. And I'm not sure what the oxygen was. And I think there's just something off in that sentence, so.
That's, I think, what those containers were that I saw.
They
They got a lot
of oxygen back there.
Well, they have
Yeah.
Totally.
I would never have thought to say that if it wasn't said.
If it wasn't said.
I don't have enough construction experience to be able to even imagine. So it was definitely said, but if somebody thinks.
Well, if it was said, it was said, so we'll leave it in there.
I think it was probably like pressurized,
Acetylene cylinders.
Yeah, something like that.
Oxygen. Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, I know what you're saying. I don't know how to word it better.
Yep, then we can leave that as is. And maybe the last part is it said and assured that
there were
no fuels.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so add the word and that there were.
Cross out was.
Got it.
It's everything for me.
Charlie, you have any?
No, I'm good.
I didn't. With those comments, I didn't have any others. So can I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh, we have the roll call. Maria,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Leo is an aye. Thank you. Whitney Hill signage, Patrick's not here. We could carry it on. What he wanted was a small sign on a different location on the hill. The two that we purchased are installed. So we'll just table that till next month. And if he wants to discuss it further, we
Sounds
let him do
good.
it. Mount Auburn Cemetery vernal pool, as you may have all seen, Patrick was working on checklists with the staff. So they will be submitting reports using those checklists to us every year, I think. So I don't know if any of you had comments on those checklists.
I didn't have a chance to look at them. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
just get
I mean,
back.
I flipped through them. I mean, I wouldn't know if they were right or wrong anyway. So I guess we could.
Can
I
I
mean,
just ask,
it was just
what
informational.
was he asking though for us to like do some of that checking? Was that the purpose?
No, he's asking them to provide the checklist filled in every year as a
It was
report to
more
us.
just informational for all of you so that you're aware.
We just sent him to you so you'd see what he was doing. But Patrick designed those checklists, and he provided them to, he might have been working with the folks over at Mount Auburn, so that they would submit to us a status of the salamanders, the toads, the tree frogs, and those things every year. Okay. So that was an FYI only. So
It was just an FYI? Okay, because it would be very cool to have a little walk and talk about it, like that
well,
we could
we
lead.
could do that. We could do that.
I had gone
We
there
could-
with Patrick. It is.
We could probably get one of those folks over there to do lead a tour for us.
Yeah, that would be
Or
good.
Patrick.
Or Patrick, yeah. We could do a site walk.
The only thing is, it's been really dry.
Break afterwards.
So, if you go out there now, it's probably going to be dried up.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
too-
yeah.
It's the frogs are starting to hide now. It's getting cold.
No.
I
Well,
was 80
doesn't
degrees.
Patrick always say he likes to kind of keep it on the be a little bit quiet about the vernal pools so that they don't get overrun with visitors there?
That's right. He does say that.
That would be the
vernal
only
pool is-
thing about doing a public walk there, but maybe the educational piece wins out.
They do keep it pretty quiet. They don't broadcast as the vernal pool. So it's just usually to us that they make that out. I don't think if you went to the website they'd say they had a vernal pool. Maybe they do. So I guess we're onto the agent report.
Yeah.
Agent report.
Yeah,
Laurel.
Maria. Yeah. Maria, do you want to provide a CPA update briefly? I know a lot has happened.
Yeah. I should have, I almost feel like I should have written something down to be concise. We had pardon?
It was just a brief overview. You can't go through all the stuff that's going on, I don't think.
So we're basically working on the community preservation plan, CP plan. We were in the home stretch, it seemed, with our consultant, J.M. Goldson. However, the draft was not up to snuff. With the draft plan they presented to us was met with a lot of disappointment by the committee members, the Community Preservation Committee members, the CPC. And what transpired thereafter was that the contract was terminated with J.M. Goldson. So there's been a lot of regrouping right now happening. We had 2 meetings in August, and I was there for the first one where we discussed our changes and requests of how much improvement we felt was needed on the draft plan. And then the next meeting was basically saying that we were giving them an opportunity to try and fix everything, but basically it was either they were going to get fired potentially or they terminate. So it's kind of a mutual termination of a contract, which is a bit sad, unfortunately, but that is what it is. So we're moving forward with that and trying to do it on our own with our one staff person. So another delay.
Well, and I would just say, the planning department is, happy and willing to help and support Lene, the CPA coordinator in any way. So won't, it's not just going to be her pulling in, but yeah, I mean, so hopefully it'll all still turn out great.
Yeah, I mean, Lene's very wise, and although she's only part-time, she's been wonderful, and she's also just very good with the multitude of personalities we have on our commission. So anyway, we're all taking, people are taking different parts from what I understand. I was told I could help with open space. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll come together, or it should come together more cleanly. And I think they voted when I was away for the second August meeting to hire a graphic designer, because a lot of us were disappointed in the graphics. So in any event, stay tuned. We just, between COVID and everything, it's just, it feels like it's another delay, but we'll get there eventually.
Do you need any help from us on open space?
Actually, Patrick and Leo offered to help with reviewing that section, but I think the more hands that are in it, not so good. But we have a draft, and I think between Patrick, Leo, and myself, if there's any, I think that should be sufficient. But and also it's just, I think they've divided up the work that remains, because we do have a draft document, and it's pretty good. It's just that it needs. It just needs some, what's that?
A lot of formatting and some TLC,
Yes.
We'll make it Watertown. But it was, there's a basis to go work.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
A lot of the text is fine. A lot of it is cleaning up how things are presented graphically, and then also making things jive a bit more and providing more photos. So things like that.
I have taken some more photos. I was out last week, so I have some more.
Yeah, great. So that's my update on that. And does anybody have any questions?
Is it going out for public comment sometime?
It will, when we get to a reasonable draft. I know we have to revise the schedule. We were hoping to have I don't remember the date now, because everything just keeps changing. It's like a moving target. I think we were going to have a draft available for review in mid-September. Oh, it was going to be an October meeting, late September, early October. And now I don't have any idea when that will be, because I missed the second of 2 meetings we had in the last few weeks. But I will keep you guys posted, but there will be a public meeting. It will probably be Zoom. And then once that plan is in place, it's basically like saying, here's what we're hoping to get from the community for projects. And then once that plan, that foundational plan is set into place and is finalized, then we can open up the application process. But we still have a lot to do before then too. We have to make the applications too. So, and actually they gave us a draft of that. So we have a draft application manual too. So we're working on 2 things, the plan and this application manual thing. That's it. So I'm sorry, Susan, I hope you can concise that down way more than what I just said. I'm getting tired.
So the next one's yours as
think
well,
I have
by the
it.
way.
Tag team it. Yeah, if you want to briefly recap the webinar that you.
I'd like to table that.
Okay, that's fine.
Don't
We'll
have my,
continue it to next month.
yeah, I don't have my notes with me.
Okay,
Okay, that's
that's
good.
fine.
Jamie's,
I don't know if there's much of a sorry.
oh, I
you
was
said
going to say Colleen's not here, or well, no, Jamie's here, but whoever does the pollinator stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I don't know if there's that much of an update. I know that about a month ago, we had been emailing about planting lists and things like that with Bob DeRico from DPW about the potential DPW parking lot spot. I know that DPW is sort of stretched very thin these days, and the summer can be tough to get a hold of people anyway. So, Leo and I will try to get Bob's attention. But Jamie, I don't know if you have any sort of update beyond where we stood with that.
No, my update was going to be to ask you and Leo if you've heard anything from Bob, because at
Right.
the beginning of August, Pam put together this really great planting list with multiple options and different explanations as to why different types of plants would be good. So, and I think Leo and Laurel sent that off to Bob, and I'm not sure what what's happened since then. So it sounds like
Okay,
not.
I wasn't sure either, so I didn't know if it was in my court to bug them. Was it the intent that Bob plant the bushes, or did they want to plant the bushes? Just curious.
I thought Bob had offered to plant that area.
All right.
And that,
So
yeah.
I think if that's the case and we come up with these plans, how's he going to know where to put them? Will they give a layout?
This seems to have been a sticking point. Like we had requested like what are his vendors? Like I don't know who his vendors are. So, and then I think Pam was a little nervous of coming up. It was hard to get specific information, and we know generally the spot, but
All right, let me
after like kind of understanding that it seems a little complicated, I think the list that Pam put together is actually quite good, and depending on what plants are available to Bob and what he would like to plant there, he can just anything on that list would
So
be satisfactory. So he can
work
pick
a
and
little bit
choose
more
what he
with
wants.
Bob on that.
Yeah.
I'll do some more work with Bob on that.
Thank you, Leo. Okay. We're in the home stretch.
Yes. It's all on you now. It's all on you.
So ongoing orders of conditions for Arsenal Park. I sent you a whole lot of PDFs of updates and photos of the construction happening with Phase A. I go out there mostly every Tuesday to meet with CDM Smith and their landscapers to look at what's going on and check on things. There have been a couple delays, partly because of the pandemic and lots of suppliers wanting upfront fund, typical construction things. But things are going at a good clip. I think this week they were installing the underground stormwater infiltration elements. There is so one thing that we can maybe discuss next time or in a future meeting is if you recall from the site plan for Phase A, there's a newly created sort of knoll or like very slight hill in the grassy area that has been graded already, and it's quite nice, but the potential for like a view to the Charles River is quite impeded by a lot of like invasive growth and all of that kind of stuff sort of as you go down the hill from Arsenal Park to I guess Greeno, or I'm blanking on that road down there, and then the river beyond. So Glenn Howard from CDM Smith was wondering whether the commission would be amenable to some kind of selective vista pruning there to sort of improve the view shed to the river itself. I can take some photos, or we can do a site visit if anyone's interested, or things like that. And again, this is not a pressing thing. This is more for once the park is complete and in use. He kind of suggested it might be really nice to be able to see the river a little bit better. So that's just something to keep in mind. For Phase B, because of summer and the pandemic, there's been a little bit of a delay in the schedule. So there are not any updated plans for us to review yet. And those sort of small focus groups around the different topics like the community garden and the skate park, those have not happened yet, but I am hopeful that they will happen in the next month or so, at which point we'll be, checking people's availability and putting together groups of users of those spaces.
Laurel?
Yes.
On that vista pruning idea.
Yeah.
I don't want to be too much of a pain, but I would love Patrick to weigh in on that before, because how do I say this? I'm getting tired. They may tell you it's invasives, but maybe it's not. And Patrick might be best to
Right.
know. And then,
Yeah.
and then also the trees there provide like a noise barrier too, as well.
Mhm.
So they, you know, I get that the vista is a beautiful thing at that knoll, but there's also that noise barrier protection.
Absolutely, I agree. It would be, it would definitely have to be something that, you know, all of you, especially, you know, especially Patrick, maybe would need to look at and consider and see whether there's any, you know, reason to do it or what have you. So, and again, this is not like, and it's not in CDM Smith's scope of work. It's outside the boundary of their any work that they're currently slated to do. So it's not like an immediate concern. It was just something that we can definitely all discuss with Patrick.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily need
future.
like a formal submission or anything like that, but
Right.
photos, or, you know, you could bring it to us later, but I would just want to make sure that somebody qualified definitely,
Absolutely.
whether it's, you know, how much are they pruning back or how much are they cutting back, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, right. Right, absolutely. It's not something that they're contracted to do right now. So
Well, we might be able to
Yeah.
do that when the new tree warden comes on board sometime too. Which isn't gonna
Good
happen
point.
till next month sometime, but, you know, maybe next month, whatever.
Yeah.
If you're thinking of a site visit, I'd be interested.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, we walked
Yeah,
around the park. So,
it's definitely an active construction site right now, but you know, I can talk with CDM Smith and see, you know, whether there's a way, if anyone's interested, that we could do a little site walk at some point. So
down the road.
Okay.
I would love to see how the Arsenal Park is going, but I don't want to be, you know, you know, it should be, you know, not be in their way or something, but I would just
Yeah.
like to see how the Arsenal Park construction is moving along, but maybe I'll go down myself. Or is that a bad idea?
I don't really know what the rules are, I guess, in terms of, I mean, because obviously you're an appointed, you know, commission member. So, but I mean, there's plenty that you can see, like, just from kind of being in the vicinity. But
But they're only doing phase A right now, right?
correct. Yeah. Yeah. So adjacent, obviously, Arsenal Yards, they're, you know, moving forward. I get to, you know, visit them every week too, since they're right there. They are completing, or sort of getting closer to completion on one of the buildings that sort of sits at the northeast corner of the edge of Arsenal Park. Yeah, and working on some of the more public space elements. But obviously, there's a lot of coordination that's happening between Arsenal Park and Arsenal Yard at those sort of seams where the two sites match up. And then 330 Pleasant Street. I've been out to that site recently with representatives from DCR, as well as the site project's landscape architect and their arborist, because they are cleaning up some of the boundary between their site and the DCR trail property, because there are 3 path connections from that site to the DCR path. So we've been out there helping them determine which trees are need to stay, you know, and where to limb up some of the trees for safety. And so the eastern sort of half of the site has been completed, and then the western half of the site will be completed in a couple weeks once we go back out there and do a little bit more of a detailed analysis, because that portion of the building on the western end is a little bit further out in terms of being occupied and things like that. So, you know, in general, I think they've done a good job of being sensitive to what's important to keep, and they're going to be planting on their site once the construction fences come down and everything, to sort of mesh the landscape design between their site and the DCR property. So I'm hopefully optimistic that it'll look really good, and you know, they're preserving what's important to be preserved, and keeping in mind the health of the trees that are there and everything like that. So
Very good.
yeah.
So, thank you, Laurel. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
everybody. This was a big meeting tonight. I didn't know if this simple little lot was going to be such a headache, but I mean, it was. I did a lot of reading today. Thank you, Jamie. But it was. I think we got something we wanted. We got some better controls of the runoff coming off of that site, which they, you know, the tree box will add. So I want to thank you all for spending the time to do it and putting up with it. So thank you very much. And it was an applicant that you know, probably should have been doing this a year ago. So I know Charlie wanted to put it off, but I don't want to delay him from planting in October. So
No, you're right. You're right. So,
okay. So if I can have a motion to adjourn, I think maybe people have probably had enough of me.
My bedtime.
Hey, I just have a quick question for Jamie. Was there a bunch of emails that she sent today that I missed?
Oh, we were
Yeah,
just, we
well,
couldn't-
it was because we couldn't discuss
couldn't
among
see them.
everybody, so I was just emailing Leo. And then since it was kind of like a legal question, I CC'd Charlie, and then I think that was maxed out on all the people I could email at one
yeah,
time
we,
without.
we didn't want to
Yeah.
broadcast it.
all
Okay.
those big sites really scared me. I thought, how come I don't know all this stuff?
Well, it's so funny that I actually honed in on that specific stuff. The alternatives analysis, did they need it? And I wanted to make sure that I was getting the most, or that we were getting the most out of those stormwater standards. So I really had careful, that's what I really looked at a lot, right before the meeting. So I didn't like,
Oh,
I'll send you some, I'll forward them to you now that we're like done with the hearing, and then I can email just you so that we're
Yes.
not talking to everybody and what's
yeah,
the
it was
correct
all
term, like
well,
deliberating.
just like anything, where our quorum is 4, so anything less than, we have to be less than 4, we communicate. So
yeah, no, I understand. I just wasn't sure if I missed
we're
something.
trying to keep you out of it.
No,
There's
totally-
no ill intent.
no, it was fine. I
Okay.
just wanted to say something. Thank
I
you
get a
all.
motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I need a roll call. Maria,
Aye.
Charlie,
Hi.
Jamie,
Aye.
Leo, aye. Laurel, you ready to go home? Oh, you're home.
I'm home, but I'm ready to go to sleep. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Laurel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is
Thank
Patrick
Thank you,
okay?
Cable
everyone.
Network TV.
Yeah.
Is
I haven't
Patrick
heard
okay?
from- I haven't
Yeah,
heard
a little
from him.
worried. I'll email him because it's not like him to just not show up.
I
think
just
he
saw
might have
him
material to
today
share
ago and he
tonight,
looks
so-
fine. So hopefully if something is wrong, we
I
won't
hope
see-
he's okay.
Yeah, it must have been very sudden.
Hmm.
Saw him at the gas station and I saw him again out pruning his hedges. So
Yeah. I hope he's all right.
yeah.
All right, thank you,
Right.
everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Take care. Good to see you
Bye.
all.
Yes, good to see everybody.